Hello, everyone, and welcome to In-House Counsel Insights, which brings together in-house attorneys in a range of practice areas to share their experiences and tricks of the trade. I have a treat for you today. On today's show is Kristie Blumenschein, and she's
Accurate.
former in-house counsel. Did a good job on that one?
Yes, you did.
Gold star. She was former in-house counsel with a number of companies, both private and public. She'll tell you more about that. 3 of them were multinational level, and particularly in the manufacturing industry. Hey, Kristie, how are you? Thanks for joining
Hi,
us.
I'm doing well. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. So let's just spend a few minutes just so the viewers have context. How did you start off as an attorney? What type of law did you do, and how did that segue into going in-house?
Sure. I was a corporate and securities attorney with a small firm in Dallas, Texas. We did primarily, it was a pure securities practice, so we did tons of private placements. We ended up taking a company public. I represented that company for 10 years during the Sarbanes-Oxley years when it first came out, did all their initial governance and everything, where the exchanges were, pushing down a lot of requirements for independent board members and all that kind of stuff. So had a lot of good training there. And we did private placements and we did SEC receiverships, which turned out to be just excellent training for general counsel positions, because you have very high profile situations that are very fast paced, with no money, with way too many legal issues to spot. It pretty much accurately described what a general counsel's position was. I did that for 13 years, and I was really enjoying the SEC receivership work and really thinking that in-house would be fun. I connected with an accountant friend of mine who said, I know a lawyer that he's at a big firm. He'll know a bunch of people to go in-house with. Or actually, I know a friend who's a CFO who has a lawyer he'll introduce you to and all that. The CFO talked with me and went, that really sounds pretty helpful. I want you to come work for me. And so I ended up becoming general counsel to a vertically integrated manufacturing firm and stayed with them until they sold themselves, and actually got recruited away 6 months pregnant, which has got to be the only time in history that's ever happened. Went in-house as vice president and general counsel and secretary of a very interesting, totally different industry, cutting edge online degree program industry. It was primarily a SaaS product, which was really interesting because you get into some very complicated issues with structuring and how you provide your products overseas when you're doing software licenses, or is it goods, or is it services, and do you bifurcate and all that? It gets very fun and very complex. On the other side, the CEO actually used that company as as an incubator. And so he was just whipping off new entities every 5 minutes. And I had to, in fact, tell him at one point, can't do any more of those before Christmas because we got about 5 and that's all we can do. And then finally landed with a company called Geoforce, which was both a manufacturer. They had their own proprietary technology, which was industry leading, but they were kind of a smaller company. So that was a fun company. They had leverage, but they didn't. For each of these 3 companies, I was their first in-house counsel. So I established initial legal operations to support their business strategies in each of those entities. And Geoforce was a manufacturer and provider of SaaS products internationally as well.
Gotcha.
So I spent the last 10 years, after my 13 years as a corporate and securities attorney, advising private companies that are multinational, that were business-to-business providers to Fortune 500 companies, and that's what I do.
Okay, and during that experience, I guess is the framework. What do you think is the most important thing that an in-house attorney does? If you want to think about the role or some characteristic that they have.
100% the most important thing an in-house counsel does is help the business do what they're trying to do in the most efficient and effective way. I haven't seen a company yet that's just running around trying to do things illegally. They're just trying to make a profit and they need to maximize it. And you have advice and you can help them do that. And you can help them get there with less risk, and you can help them get there more smoothly, more quickly, more efficiently. And it's just a ton of fun. But for somebody to be able to do that, you have to have the mindset that perfection is definitely the enemy of the good. that you have to know how to 80-20 it. You have to know how to issue spot. You have to know how to turn on a dime. You have to know how to speak to executives in their language, which is basically bullet points and fragments, because they're busy. They're busy. They have a ton of things to do. And their first plan is they're not waking up in the morning saying, I am dying to talk to the lawyer. The lawyer needs to come in and make themselves an integral part of the team and help the team understand that you're not there to get in the way. You're not there to say no. You're there to help them get where they need to be smoothly, more efficiently, and effectively. And when you approach it that way, they want to bring in, and they do.
So let's talk about that, because I want to unpack some of that. So you talked about building essentially a coalition, which takes work, time, investment. Tell me, how do you do that and get them to be on your team, as opposed to just someone that's like, going to take all the fun out of everything?
Well, the companies I worked with were usually really agile because they were moving so fast. And so generally speaking, we had urgent situations everywhere. And when you have emergencies, you're busy addressing emergencies, and everybody wants to come talk to you if you can help them with their emergency, right? So what I find a lot of the times is that I was flying the plane while I was fixing the plane, and I was developing the relationships as I went. I mean, I always make it a priority when I come in to meet everybody, to talk to them. What's important to you? What risks do you see? What problems do you have? How do you think I can help you? But I don't just ask them, how do you think I can help you? Because they often don't know. I ask, what are your problems? What are your problems? What's happening to you? What's slowing you down? What's irritating you? Talk to me about it, because there's a getting to know people, what they do, what they're trying to do, and the problems they're encountering gives you a lot of insight into where there's risk opportunities and where there's risk management opportunities. And so I just see it as my job to come in and go, well, tell me what the hot spots are. Now, after we know what the hot spots are, let's talk about who you are and what you do and how you want to do it and where you want to go. That's very important, because the advice you give today is not contingent on what's happening today. It's also where you're going, because oftentimes, it would change if you knew where you were going. And so I go out of my way to establish those relationships, but then every opportunity that I have to interact with someone, i.e. every emergency I'm dealing with, I make sure they understand that I'm not coming in to tell them what to do. I'm coming in to help them make their life easier. And it's either to take it off their plate entirely, or it's to understand the situation and to bring whatever expertise I have to bear to smooth out the road for them. And, people are really willing and eager to talk with you if you're all about them and you're all about helping them. And that's really what in-house counsel's role is. It was interesting going from a law firm where you're revenue, right, to in-house where you're not. It's a different mindset, and you need to be prepared for it. But even in my law firm, it was really fun to get a big win, which on a big project, which necessarily required more than one attorney or sometimes more than one level of expertise. It's just fun to be part of a group that gets in and makes things happen. And so if you can take that mindset in, you're fine,
How do you, that's really good. I love what you added, just about kind of a servant mentality is what I got out of that. How do you, if you do it all, educate your clients, the people, on how to involve you and what lawyers do? Because it seems like that was some of what you mentioned, is people just they don't know what they don't know.
Right. And they don't know how in the world a lawyer could help them. And if you don't have a business orientation, when you go in-house, you're not going to be of very much help, because most of the risk is not in these isolated legal areas. The risk is you've got miscommunication between parties, right? So if the company is expecting one thing out of their employees and their employees are expecting another, you have friction there, and you're going to have tension there. And then when the opportunity comes along, that's going to blow up and become something it doesn't need to be. Same is true with your shareholders. Tell them what they need to know and do what you say you're going to do. Do the same with your customers. Do the same with your vendors. Try to remove the areas for friction and everything. What I do as a in-house counsel is I kind of feel like RoboCop. I'm walking around and I'm always scanning and I'm always looking. Who's here? Who's not here? What technology do we have? What people do we have? What resources do we have? How educated are people? How trained are our people? What what are competitors' risks? What are vendors' risks? And I'm always synthesizing that, and I'm looking for problem areas. And it's just what a general counsel does. It's always looking to see either where's a hot spot right now, or where's a potential hot spot coming down the way that I can warn my people about and I can steer the ship around. Or, how can I make things better and faster, sweeter? How can I make our revenues a little bit more true? I mean, sometimes we have revenues,
Hmm.
and it doesn't mean they're collectible. or
That's
we might
true.
have one-time revenues, but we can turn them into subscription revenues, which look a lot better to people looking at company valuations and things like that. You're always looking for ways to optimize everything. And so when I see those opportunities, I just go and talk to people. And I literally go, from the C-suite to the directors, to the managers, to the line. I go to the accounting department and I sit down with them. I'm like, hey, you know what problems are you seeing when you get a new contract in from sales, or you have an invoice in and you need to bill it? And they're like, oh, we have all these issues. We never know if it's this affiliate or that affiliate. And the lawyers and the sales guys are changing the contract, but the contract's 10 pages long and I don't know what changes they've made.
Right.
And you're like, you know what, that's
Right.
really fixable. We created
Yeah.
a format in one. After a conversation like that, I just went in, I'm like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to say any changes to this form contract, assuming you're lucky enough to use your own contract, which is not always true. But if you are, any material change is going to go in this one little tiny box so that accounting can look right at it and get it right there. And by the way, we're also going to make sure that I sat down at one point and realized every part of one of the companies I worked with, every part had no clue what an affiliate was or what a subsidiary was. It was messing up sales. It was messing up accounting. It was messing up revenue recognition. It was messing up everything. And nobody understood. And there were legal risks just everywhere. And I talked to the C-suite. I'm like, I think really honestly, we need a company-wide training. And we just need to explain to people, like, we have 10 entities and they're not all the same thing. And what does that mean and everything else? And
Right.
when I spotted that issue, I went to my team. They agreed, sure, we'll do a lunch. We did it. It was one of the most productive things we did. And I showed them how, uh,
It's
uh,
fantastic.
a multi-level organization is like a family. A brother and a sister are related and they have benefits because they're related,
Yeah.
but they're not the same person. If one goes to jail, the other one doesn't go
Right.
to jail, right?
Yeah.
If one
Yeah.
has revenue, the other one can't collect, right? And just explain that, and the benefits went all the way down. And I guess, and I've done everything from sitting down with just like somebody in accounting that's doing the first level intake and talking to them
Right.
about what a subsidiary is, what a parent is, what an affiliate is, what that means and everything, to talking to the controller, to talking to the head of sales, to talking to the C-suite. Like, I just sit down with people. If I see a need, I sit down with them. And that's my job, is to make their
I
lives
love it.
easier, and to if I find an opportunity to educate people, I just do it. And I don't ask for permission. I just go, hey, let's get a coffee. Let's sit down and talk for
Yeah.
5 minutes,
Yeah. Well, so
because
you talked a lot about your team and being a member of a team and educating your team. I was curious, have you found yourself at odds with a particular department more than another, or maybe a particular type of person or position? Not a specific person, but like, an avatar of a person.
I I did, and I'm so dying to tell the story because I had such a funny nickname and I can't use it. Let's see. I mean, I had a great relationship with the head of sales, and head of sales is usually adverse to legal. So, like, all they're going to do is slow
Okay.
me down. They can't do they
Okay.
can't do anything helpful. And it just so happened that we got on. She was very good at her job. I thought I was good at mine. She was very headstrong. I was very headstrong. She was very adverse to me on almost everything. And so we did some lunches together, had some great Mexican food and great margaritas, and got to know each other, enjoyed each other. And she would tell me all the time, like, I'm gonna go around you. I'm gonna ignore your advice on this. I'm like, I've already end run you. I've already talked to the CEO and you're not going anywhere. I already got you, girly, because I'm into risk management and I already saw that risk coming. Right? So I already nipped that in the bud. But like, I just am a firm believer, and I've kind of developed over time this saying that clarity is kindness. I believe it's true in terminations and in behavior, performance review. I believe it's important with, like, if you have somebody adverse, and I have had people that are adverse, but it's not about them and it's not about me. It's about the company and getting the job done. I had a character get on a call with me, and he was so annoyed with my revisions to some contracts. Like, none of this is necessary. All of this is duplicative. I'm like, well, none of that is true, but it's 5 o'clock on Friday and I want a pizza. How about let's just crunch this out? Let's go through these comments one by one. You tell me why you think they're worthless, and I'll tell you why I think they're not. And we'll come to a resolution. And we whipped through it in about 45 minutes, and just being open and honest. And nobody, they don't have to love me, but we're all working on the same team. I try to make people love me because I'm kind of a big fan of being liked. But in the end of life, I don't care, because it's really about just getting the product out the door and getting the company's goals done. And we're all working toward the same goal. So we get there eventually.
Why do you think, and you did mention someone pretty specific, but then you made a general statement that sales is oftentimes at odds with legal. Why do you think that is?
I think they think that legal's job is to point out risks, and therefore that means they have to stop. And that's just not true. What really should happen is legal should come in and be the grease that gets the deal done. They should help you make it easier to avoid the situation in the first place. And, that's one of the things we did. We had in fact, there was a story one time where I was on a call, and we had inherited a legacy contract. It had just been a disaster. And it turns out it was like one of the most important contracts the company had ever signed, but nobody read it. we had proprietary technology, and they had just given it away. And it had all these truly scary things that, like, I really had to come in and go, no, we will not be doing this. And this contract will be revised. And, even if I don't have the leverage, like, I can assure you right now, this is going to change. So I get on the phone, and it just so happened we had someone on the other side that was equally professional. They wanted X. They didn't need X plus A plus B plus everything else in the company. They just wanted their product. And they had a sales guy and their lawyer, and I had my head of sales and me. And we were on this contract, and the guy was like, well, we want this. I'm like, well, here's the issue with that. I totally can't give you that, and this is why. And I don't want to give you that, and I'm not going to give you that. But I can do this. And their response was, well, we don't need that. That's perfectly fine. And then he said something to me. He's like, well, we really want this. I'm like, well, I hadn't seen that coming, but I understand your concern, and we can alleviate your concern this way, and we can do this and that. At the end of the call, my head of sales told me that she got on the phone with the other head of sales, and they were like, I've never seen a call like that ever, because it was completely productive. Nothing was adverse. It was all about, what's your issue? Let's work around it, right? Because it's in both of our companies' interest to get this deal done. And
that totally makes sense.
And it was a lot of fun. So I think it's just a matter of educating. If you get a lawyer in there that comes in and says, I am your friend and I will help you. I will shorten, another thing I did was I gained their trust, because I came in and went, what about this contract pisses you off? What do you fight about all the time? Like, well,
right.
And, they unload, and then I fixed it. And I'm like, well, okay, you know what? Like, one of the things we fought about all the time, we just gave to the client, because what it was is, if there was a return, like 95% of the time, if there's a return, it's a customer problem. It's not a product problem. So to us, we're like, you should pay to return it, because odds are it's your issue, not ours. And it's a little issue, of course. The customer's like, I'm not paying to return a product that's defective. We're like, so what we ended up doing was we just gave it to them. We're like, you know what? We'll pay for it. Go ahead. We didn't even say we'll pay for it. We're like, don't fight over that. Put whatever you want in the contract, because the logistics guy pointed out to me, he's like, they're never going to do that. They're never going to go out of their way and call me and get our FedEx code and do this and take it. They're not going to do that. They're going to go to their mailroom, pop it in, and their mailroom is going to pay for it. And it's exactly what happened. We never needed to fight over that. And it was in our benefit, because just the speed of business meant it was going to be done to our favor. And it was hilarious. And I only knew that because logistics pointed that out to me, right? So that's another example of, like, you're constantly learning by your interactions with people. You learn what matters and what doesn't. And the salespeople are like, these people are always pissed off, about this issue. Like, that issue doesn't need to be there. Just take it out. And we even, we of course made our documents mutual. There is no need to go in with a document that's all one-sided. That's just ridiculous and a waste of time.
Right.
Nobody's going to sign a one-sided document unless you're
Yeah.
excellent or something. And
Yeah.
we're not, you know, so
Yeah.
there's just things you can do to make their life easier. And if you make their life easier, they start to trust, hey, maybe she's not some ivory tower lawyer that doesn't have a clue and is just going to say no all the time. And if
Yeah.
maybe you don't say no all that much, I have said no. I've said a hard no, but it's so few. It's so seldom. And you know, one time
You're
it
not
involved
crying
criminal
wolf
rights.
at that point.
No, no. In fact, one time they were doing something funny in a contract, and I just said, okay, let me explain this to you. You can do this if you want to, but I am not going to help you because this is malpractice. And it had been awful. I've been up till like 3 a.m, 3 or 4 nights in a row. I'm like, I'm going home. I'm getting a cookie and a Coke, and y'all call me and let me know what you want to do. They just said, well, she used the word malpractice, you know, and they ended up doing what I wanted them to do. And it didn't kill their deal or anything. It was like one more phone call that needed to happen, one more tiny
Nice.
change. So, yeah.
Nice. I love it. So I'm going to end on this. I don't normally ask this question, but for you, I feel like I'm going to get something good. So what's the
No
craziest thing you've
pressure.
ever seen in-house?
Oh, okay. So I thought about this potential question. I've seen a lot of really big, hairy, scary legal things. And I've really done a lot of stuff, but the weirdest thing that ever happened ever was we had an unfortunate situation where we had an employee that was 3-4 hours away and he had a company truck. And because of various reasons, we couldn't fly down and terminate him and take the truck back. We had to do something we just felt awful about. We had this guy, he was coming up for a meeting anyway, and he was driving the truck up, and we were going to terminate him, his employment, and then take his truck. And we felt horrible about it, and we had a plane flight for him, but it's just how it's how the facts lined up, and it's what we had to do. So the termination of employment did not go well. And supposedly he told the guy that we have a flight for you. The man ran out of the building. The manager chased him. The CFO chased him. I went running out after my executive team. Head of sales was at the back of the building. The guy, don't ask me why, but somehow he was running away from my guy. My manager was literally chasing him, going, "We have tickets for you. We have tickets for you," because he felt bad and he wanted to give him tickets. And the former employee, was threatening to punch my manager, and my manager was still chasing him. So now I'm like, what are you people doing?
Leave him alone.
So I know the CFO is outside and some other person, I forget who, and I'm like, or the head of HR. And I'm looking at him like, listen to me. He knows we have a ticket. He is telling you, leave him alone. Leave him alone. We're going to have a much hairier problem here if you continue to chase this poor guy, you know, and just like, please, please, please don't. And I talked myself blue in the face, and Pauline went, I'm done. I'm giving you my advice. Do or do not. I'm going in. I'm going to have the ticket. If he comes back, I'll give him the ticket. I'm out.
Yeah,
because
right.
at the end of the day, right, I give advice. I make recommendations. I don't make decisions. It's your decision. I've told you the risk. I mean, we can all go to jail here, and we can have, we can have a fun and frolicky time with punches going back and forth. I would rather you just leave the man alone. He told you to leave him alone. Leave him alone. He knows where the ticket is. If he wants it, he'll come get it. So that was the most unusual.
I love that story. That's funny. And I knew I'd get a good one from you. Kristie, thanks for spending a short part of your day with us. We appreciate you, and it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
It has been. Thank you so much.